Hi, it's Wednesday. That means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of Dating a Widower, and today we're going to discuss how often a widower should go to the cemetery to visit his late wife's grave, as well as whether or not this is a red flag. This is a question I get usually from women who have been dating a widower for less than a year. Usually, again, most people, unless they're older, really don't think about dating a widower, and then, they happen to meet one or they're introduced to one. Things get going good, and suddenly they realize there's a lot of issues that come with dating a widower that they didn't think about. And one of those is the widower wants to go to the cemetery and visit his late wife's grave, and so they think, well, is this a red flag? Is he not ready to move on? Is there something wrong with this? So very understandable question, very common question. Let me share a little bit about my story and what I've done. It's not necessarily what I think everybody should do, but I'll tell you a little bit about my story and what I have done, and then what I think is acceptable for widowers to do, whether you're in the early dating stages or have been married for whatever 10 years, 20 years, whatever. Um, so my story is this: I haven't been to the cemetery to visit my late wife's grave in 15 years. The last time I was there was on the first anniversary of her death. I went there. Marathon Girl went with me. Kind of whatever, paid my respects. Actually, coincidentally, some friends showed up. We kind of stood around and talked for 10 or 15 minutes, and I left. And as we were driving away, I kind of realized that I wasn't going to come back here. And it wasn't anything personal against the late wife, but I just kind of realized that my life was transitioning, that I was starting a new life with Marathon Girl. And I realized that I didn't want to put something in my path that might kind of draw me back or make my impending marriage to Julie Harder. And by the way, we weren't engaged then. We got engaged about a month after this visit. But I knew we were going to get married, and I kind of knew that I didn't want to put obstacles in our way that might just kind of put a dent on the marriage. So I personally have not been back in 15 years. People ask, well, are you ever going to go back? And probably at some point I'm going to, but probably not for the reasons you think. My late wife is buried in kind of a family plot kind of area. There's some empty graves there for my mom and dad, and maybe some of my brothers and sisters, and maybe one for me. I'll talk about that in a minute. So at some point, I figure my mom or dad's going to kick the bucket, or someone in the family is going to kick the bucket, and I'm gonna have to end up going back there for the burial. So am I going to go back at some point? Yeah, but am I intentionally going to go back there as a hey, I want to pay the late wife a visit? No, I'm not going to do that. So that's just a little bit about my story. Again, I don't necessarily recommend it for everybody. That's what worked for me. I think that if I wanted to go back now, it's been long enough that I don't think it would be an obstacle at all. I don't think it would be anything that would kind of set my marriage back or set my relationship with Julie back. It might have been early on, the first couple of years we were married, but now I could probably go back and it would be fine. But again, I've made that choice. I've chosen not to do it. That's fine. You don't have to agree or disagree with it. I'm just telling you what worked for me. Now, this is my advice in general for people. So, if a widower wants to go back and visit his late wife graves, I don't have a problem with it as long as there's a few conditions that are met. One is I don't think he should be going back regularly. If he's going back all the time, whatever, weekly, monthly, in my mind, that's more of a red flag. But if he wants to go back on whatever the date of her death, her birthday, maybe their anniversary, on Memorial Day, I don't know, whatever days are kind of maybe special or meaningful to him, I don't have a problem with him going there on the following condition: that when he gets back, when he returns from the cemetery, he's not moody, he's not upset, he's not sad, he's not, I don't know, whatever. He's not in a mood. He's not in an attitude, say, that's going to set your relationship back, your marriage back. Whatever it is. I think that if he wants to get emotional or something, that's fine, but it needs to be done there at the cemetery. He needs to be able to kind of section it off and say, okay, whatever. I've paid my respects. I've put flowers on the grave. Again, whatever it is that I've wanted to do. Now I'm heading back to my new life. Gotta put the curtain down, so to speak, and I've got to be okay with it. If he's going occasionally, he's coming back moody, and he's coming back I don't know, upset or sad, especially if the sadness lingers more than maybe an hour or two, if it's going on to the next day, red flag. Okay. So either, there may be some other issues going on, or maybe he should just not go to the cemetery. So again, occasional visits 2 or 3 times a year, I don't have a problem with, so long as it's not going to emotionally tear down the a relationship. And this doesn't change if he has kids. Sometimes I say, well, he has kids, and whatever, the kids want to go once a week or once a month. Again, in my mind, it doesn't matter. I think that if he wants to drop the kids off, or I don't know, do whatever, I think that's one thing. But I don't think, again, the kids are an excuse. Well, let's go every week, or let's go every month. I don't think that's good. So a couple visits are fine. Another question I get is, well, he wants me to come with him. Well, that's a personal decision, and that's up to you. As far as I'm concerned, if you're dating a widower, married to a widower, and he wants to go visit the cemetery, you're under no obligation to go with him. If you want to go with him, I think that's fine. I don't know what's going to happen when he gets there. I don't know if it's going to be like an emotional mess, or he's just going to stand around and reminisce. Again, I don't know. But again, I don't think you're under any obligation to go with him. And I think if you don't want to go with him, that's fine. I think you just need to explain that, maybe, again, give him a reason. Don't just say no. Say, look, this is something, I think this is a private moment that you should have by yourself. Whatever, don't discount the importance of it necessarily, but, just maybe explain to him that it's something you just don't feel comfortable, and you're glad that he can go and have that time and have those moments, and do whatever he needs to do. But if you're not comfortable doing it, then don't go. If you're comfortable doing it, that's fine. Maybe if you've gone a couple times, you know what to look for and what to watch for, or how he's going to react. If you haven't gone before, just throwing it out there that maybe you want to steel yourself that, if he starts crying or bawling or something like that, and he's got to kind of sit there and watch it, is that something you really want to do? So anyway, just something to go ahead and consider. People ask, well, sometimes, I tell them, hey, it's whatever. It's been 15 years since I've been to the cemetery, and people are asking, well, didn't you love your late wife? Don't you want to remember her? And of course I loved her. But in my mind, the best way to remember people are in our hearts and minds. And, it's not just because I don't go to the cemetery doesn't mean I don't have the occasional thought or the occasional thing where I'm like, I wonder what Krista would think of that. Or, where a memory flashes through, and that's fine, and that's normal, and that's natural. But in my mind, the best way to honor someone is in our hearts and minds, and really it is through our actions. I always, I hear widowers say all the time that the late wife made you a better person. Well, okay, good. Be that better person then. Go out there and be that person that the late wife thought you were. And that's the best way to honor somebody, ultimately, is through your actions. You want to, if you believe in the Bible and stuff, it talks about honoring your father and mother. It means, in my mind, that means you're going out there and you're being someone that your mom and dad would be proud of. You want to honor a late wife, great. Go out there and be happy and be the kind of person that the late wife would be proud of. I can't think of anybody out there that would be, yeah, when I die, I want my surviving spouse to be sad and miserable. I mean, who thinks that? Nobody thinks that. Nobody who really loves their spouse. I mean, if I was to die, I'd be like, Julie, go out and have a fun life, and, do whatever you think you need to do to make it's going to make you happy. If you fall in love again, great. You fall in love again, and that's fine. I'm dead. I'm elsewhere. I've probably got other concerns other than that. But really, I mean, honor people in your hearts and minds, and then honor them through your actions. Be the kind of person, that deceased person would want you to be, and that deceased person would be proud of. And that's the ultimate way to honor them. That's the ultimate way to respect someone. Going to the cemetery, I mean, it may make you feel good, but I mean, and again, I'm not dissing on going to the cemetery. Do not get that message from this video or anything I've ever said. I don't have a problem with it, but I don't think it's something that we need to do to ultimately remember the people that we love. And I think, you want to make the late wife proud, you want to make your late husband proud, you want to make your parents proud, your brother, sister, whoever's deceased proud. Go out there and be the kind of person that they'd want you to be. That's ultimately what you can do. Anyway, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Got another video right here that you might want to watch. And I'm Abel Keogh, author of Dating a Widower, and I'll see you next Wednesday.